Oh boy. Hi, everybody. Got a rocky start today. That is for sure. I've got a desktop that is a total disaster area. I have no music. My equipment is being funny. And I am trying desperately to get caught up on all that stuff. Let's get some music going. Wow, that's really loud. We don't want it that loud. I think that's going to work nice. All right. We got to work on this playlist a little bit too. Anyway, here we are. Welcome to Studio Sunday. Thanks for joining me. I'm going to do a little drawing as per the usual. Answer your questions about drawing. Check out what you're working on maybe. Listen to what you are struggling with in your creative practice and hopefully advise on that. And who knows what else will happen. Look, there's Mom. Good morning, Mom. Nice to see you. Hope it's going all right for you. I am still trying to get some of the equipment motivated here. And Terry is in the other room printing out a image off of a cabinet card, which is kind of awesome. Look at that. That came from this right here, which I'm really kind of excited to see this because first of all, I'm doing a cabinet card workshop coming up. And one of the things that I vowed to do is if I could not get you or if you could not acquire a cabinet card in time to do the workshop, then I would give you a PDF of an image that you could work from. Now, this is a great example of that and how well it prints out. Now, you could add some workable fixative to this, and then you could draw or paint on top of it. And it's actually, this is a 4x6. This is an 8.5 by 11. So this is much nicer as a surface to practice on. This is an antique. This is reproducible. So we could have a number of these. There you go. You're welcome. So I know that Terry's going to be working on her own, and she's going to be working on the same one that I'm working on, which is kind of cool. So we'll get to see maybe later what she does with hers versus what I do with mine. Hers, of course, likely being far superior to mine. But what are you going to do? You know, you live with this all the time. Anyway, I am going to throw up some information on the screen in a little bit about the workshop because that's important. And then we're going to get down to business on this little guy right here. Let's see what this other camera can do for us here. Now, one thing I've been doing a little bit of lately in how I attack these cabinet cards is, and this one's not going to work for that today. However, this one will. So I got to get this guy coated. Going to need a coating of material. But what I've been trying to do is blend the forehead area into the ground. You'll notice the tonality here is very similar between this section of the forehead and this section of the ground. So take a look. And what's nice is if I can mix up just the right gouache to color out this hair, it winds up creating this sort of very strange disjointed invisibility. And I love that, right? So that's going to give me an opportunity to sort of then manipulate this in a way like I was not before. Everything before seemed stuck on or attached to. But what that does is it allows it to kind of fuse or integrate in a way that it had not before, which I'm kind of psyched about. So in the meantime, I think we are going to work on this guy. This is the one Terry will be working on, so I'm going to do this one as well. So we'll go with that. And let's not do that to the picture, shall we? Okay. So let's get started. Tell me what you're working on out there if you're here. If you're hanging out, I'm going to prep some materials. Listen to some music. We'll do some art trivia today. Hopefully we'll do some art trivia. Is there anything you can do to remove which looks like a brown mold on these if possible? Good question, because I've got a lot like that. Take a look at this one. Right, there's this coating up here, and when I touch it, I can physically feel it. Like this is on the surface of the photo. But then down here, like right around his face, there's a staining. See the staining here? I don't know if I can get rid of that. I wonder if that messes with the emulsion. Why don't we try it? I haven't coated him yet, and so maybe that's a good thing. And I've just got a little bit of water and a reasonably abrasive paper towel. So I'm just gonna start to scrub this and see how much of that we lose. I don't want to be too aggressive because I don't want to really scratch it up. However, the other, look at that. Look at that color on there. So there's definitely something coming off. So what happens if I just try to clean around him? An archivist might have a real problem with what I'm doing right now, but I plan on turning this into a piece of art. I'm not as concerned necessarily. I mean, in the end though, this is not becoming pristine. There's definitely still something sitting up on the top, but I can't tell what it is. Like I'm just applying a little pressure with my fingernail through the paper towel. And I can hear it, like there's a little click as it rides over the surface of that stain, telling me that whatever that is, it's on top, which is a strange thing. It does look better. Yeah, it definitely got a little bit better, but it is far from perfect. Yep, I don't know. All right, so you know what I would do in that case is perhaps this is a situation where the ground, where it's moldy, just gets painted, right? We incorporate him into some kind of scene. We incorporate him into some kind of environment that negates all this and paints over it. It would probably give it a much crisper, more professional look. So one thing to think about when you're doing this is that very limitation. How does that limitation force my hand or give me a kind of, a creative approach? Like what does that suggest to me? That's something that we could consider. Now, one thing I like to do lately is I love this black, this black 2.0, black 3.0, whichever black is the black of your choice. I might be able to just kind of go all around him, obliterating that. It might create a really interesting scenario, a real interesting space. Plus, I don't like to use the black for the black's sake. I like to use the black as a ground on which I eventually paint. So I'm just gonna go straight at this guy. I am not gonna worry about coating him. I'm just gonna get right down to business with coating this card now that we're talking about it. Now this black has a very flat, matte kind of feel to it. Its composition is fantastic at absorbing light. So I'm gonna get in kind of close here. If you're out there watching, say hello, give a follow, tell me what you're working on. You guys can hear my very enthusiastic dog in the background playing with her squeaky toy. So in the cabinet card workshop that I'm offering, that you can sign up for, what makes a process like this different? Like you're sitting there watching me, I'm talking about certain aspects of the process that I'm doing. You know, so you ask yourself, well, what am I going to get in a workshop? Like, what's going to be different? The answer is, I'm actually going to talk a lot about the creative process and give you ways in which to think about what you're working on. Number one. Number two, I'll talk about the history of the cabinet card. I will show a small slideshow on artists who work in this way, and you'll be able to see bits and pieces of their practice and get introduced to some new artists, which is kind of cool. I'm sure you'll like them. And ultimately, between talking about materials and their function, giving you some technical support, ultimately, you're going to be able to interact with me in a much better way than through this chat. Don't get me wrong, this chat is fantastic and I love it. However, the big draw here, the big plus here, is that we will all be in a Discord call together, live together. You can choose to turn your camera on if you want. You don't have to. You could be strictly audio. And that means you get to show me what you're working on. You can show the whole group what you're working on. And that's going to give us an opportunity to give feedback, give advice, talk about how to make things better. In the end, what I'm also really looking forward to with this is this notion that as these cabinet card workshops unfold, because I'll do more than one, we're going to generate a small library of images that I'll show as a gallery. So I'm going to set up a web page just for the people who take my class, and I'm going to put your work on there. That can be as anonymous or as public as you want it to be. If you have an Instagram and you want me to link that Instagram on there, so be it. We'll do that. But if you just want your work to be on there without your name tied to it, so be it. If you don't want to submit your work at all, that's fine too. I love the way he's beginning to disappear into this black field. He's not disappearing. He's emerging from the black field, right? But it gives this other dimension. It's added this, his lighting, the lighting on his face now, and the way he sort of exists in this black field is really becoming quite interesting to me. I like that. I like that a lot. I think I want to hit the border a little bit since I strayed out into there. I know I've been a little bit inconsistent with my Studio Sunday appearances, which I apologize for. Number one, it's, you know, not that this is an excuse, but it is summer. Things get hairy with schedules. Terry and I are trying to gear up to do a lot of show reviews. We've been traveling about to different galleries, trying to review some of the work that's out there. I kind of like this guy. I had intended to start on this other guy, but now we're working with this one. So we just kind of let this flow, right? We kind of let the work dictate what happens here. I think by bringing this black to the edge, we get a very different feel for him in space. And I don't mean like deep space, like outer space. I mean figure ground relationship space is different. Now that we're to the edge, the environment that he's in changes. He's not bordered. He's not physically contained anymore. He has his lines extend to infinity, essentially. Now, a problem for me is, like, look at that edge. I don't like that at all. So I'm gonna want to get in there and just hammer that out. Just clean that up a little bit. Not bad, not bad, not bad. See how that feels? It feels a lot better. You can see that edge is a lot crisper. I'm gonna get in here and coat him a little bit better. Take care of the rest of this border. Man, I'll tell you, I get this stuff on my hands all the time, and it is, for those of you who have ever oil painted before, you know the nightmare when a little extra oil paint gets somewhere, you can't figure out where it is, and then it's getting transferred to every single surface in your life until you track it down, scrub the living daylights out of it, and this stuff is like that. It's like, and then it's here, and you know, before you know it, it's everywhere, and it is really seriously black. I'm going to take this all the way down, right to the corner of the card. think that works pretty well. We definitely don't want to obliterate this nice text at the bottom. Does that black paint have a water base? It sure does. I'm pretty sure it's an acrylic base. The thing that's amazing about it is that I've never handled anything like this before. It's really got a responsive covering. Like even with a brush that's got a fair bit of water in it, which should dilute it, it still just goes right on. So let's see about up here. I love the way this camera focuses. Keep in mind, the entire time I'm doing this very simplistic process, I'm really thinking a lot about next steps. I'm not trying to force something. What I'm really focusing on here is that black space around his head. And I'm like, well, if I just really concentrate on that and think about what it means to be in this void, this beautiful black void like this, well, what does it churn up thoughts of? I mean, the obvious ones are like, well, deep space, right? And that's fine. You can go to the obvious ones first. There's nothing wrong with that. But what else? Where else does it go? And for me, it's kind of like this weird kind of place inside of a nightmare that has, in other words, something is so unfamiliar, something is so foreign to me in terms of where I'm located or where I'm, you know, experiencing that nightmare, that maybe there's nothing around me. I've had scary dreams like that before, where I'm immersed in this kind of weird blackness. And there might be a presence, there might be the notion that something's there, but and so I kind of wonder what comes next for him, being in a space like that. I mean, you don't have to be this way, but I'm the type of person that's going to reject the obvious, right? As soon as the first thought that pops into my head, the one that seems most obvious, is the one I'm going to completely reject. So, stars, he's in space, there's a planetary body behind him. That one's out. It seems too easy to me. it's not a bad habit to get into in terms of your own criticality, your own creative thinking. Sometimes some things are unavoidable. Okay, so he's got a nice ground. He's in pretty good shape. Kind of like that. Now, am I going to do something right now on this? Am I going to work further on this? Nope. I'm moving over to this other guy. I think I really want to see what I can do with him. Now, he's also got some flaws. This card is damaged, right? So let's see if I can get this to work on the camera. But there is a very, very visible crack. See that there in the card? Yeah, now you can see it. That's really a kind of a bummer. This is a really beautiful image. It's a really strong, vibrant, contrasty photo, which I love. So, you know, I kind of really want to work with it, but I'm also at the same time like, yeah, but if I make a good piece on here, can I responsibly say that this is not damaged in some way? So that bugs me a little bit, but we're just gonna roll with it and we'll see what happens. If it's, you know, it's a good place to make some work, so we'll see. So this guy kind of makes me want to dig into some gouache and maybe think about matching that color if possible. Now that's gonna require several layers of white to blot out this guy's hair and possibly get up into this area. I like this idea of his head being, you know, he's got this really great large beard here, right? Which is almost, you know, too much. Like his face is completely swallowed up by this massive hair growth, which is noble, right? I think that's a noble, very noble beard, especially for his day. But maybe if he had some other kind of thing swallowing up his head here, something large, I have some ideas. Sometimes you have to talk through these things, right? Sometimes I just physically describe what it is I'm seeing. And I just go from there. So the first thing I'll do is I'm going to lay down a reasonable amount of white. And just kind of give myself a space from which to blend this forehead into this. These are beautiful matches, but I've got two very contrasted layers in between. You know, and then all of a sudden I look at this and I'm like, wow, that's kind of a cool head of hair he's got there. I like that. Even though I have no intention of making that hair, it all of a sudden becomes something kind of interesting. Ma, what are you working on today? What do you got going over there? Not sure how far I want to go with this kind of blended thing. This is starting to make me think about like a large kind of growth off the top of his head. Cabinet card that looks like Robert E. Lee. Oh boy. Gosh, what if it is Robert E. Lee? See, now, I kind of love what's starting to happen here. And this just kind of came out of a necessity. And this is beginning to inform where I go next. Excuse me. All right, so I'm gonna mix up an attempt at a light sepia. It is tricky to do. Ultimately, with a photo, getting something to perfectly blend so that it does not look like you stuck something on top is very tricky. But I love to try and I love color matching. So I'm just working here to mix this up. It's a little bit off camera. It's kind of like a secret sauce. It's kind of like a secret sauce. One workshop I should probably work on putting together after I get all the ones done that I want to do is a color theory workshop. So look, there's a dot of color on that is just obviously very, very dark, right? However, tonally, there's a coolness to this kind of sepia is not straight brown, right? It's got cool hints of purple. It's got, there's even a little bit of ochre in there, right? But that ochre-purple combo, they kind of need to work together. Now, knowing that I'm going to be blending this in with a lot of white, I'm just going to put a patch on there to take a look at where I'm at. And as an answer to it being too dark, I'm actually going to mix up white straight up on there. So I'll come back in with some white and blend those two together. And I'm going to push and pull that. Are we hitting it? We're close. We're kind of close. Part of our problem is this goes all the way down, right? So we're obviously going to have a contrasting line here. So I have to decide, you know, I'm going in one of two directions. Am I going to A, maybe make this an object. Make this part of whatever it is that's growing out of his head. And if it does grow out of his head, maybe it grows out of the back, which means it's got to come down behind this ear. But then as it rises up into space here, into the area around his head, it's got less definition because there's less contrast. Looks like it's just you and me today, Ma. Summer's here. Everyone's out doing stuff. Just as I have been. Let's get a little bit more of that. This is starting to look kind of interesting, actually. I kind of like where this is going. Wonder what the other camera will do here. Let's see if this is a better look at what's going on. It's not bad. So what I'm really interested in doing right now is just kind of establishing a... Ooh, look at that. Some of that heavy Vantablack that's in the water came up with my rinse and sort of weirdly polluted what I'm working with, but that's interesting. So let's say for a minute now that I've committed to making this a large object on his head. Well, then now it's kind of important to find a good blend into his head so that it feels like it's actually there. Like he's not wearing a hat. I don't want him to wear a hat. I want him to it to blend into his head as if it's actually part of him. I want it to feel like it's on him. And this dividing line between these two spaces right now is still just a tad contrasty. Private lesson. It is a private lesson. I think we need a little bit more of an umbery kind of brown in this. Just to kind of bring it back down a little bit. It's gonna go on dark. I'm gonna come back in with a wash. And just another way of making this blend a little bit better is to try and pull it down closer to his brow, and I think I've just managed to find the right spot here. It feels like it's getting much better in its blend, in its approach. These two cameras are not well aligned because when I'm close on one, that's better. All right. Not bad. The question is, what is this going to be? Where are we going with this thing? I have Robert in a snow globe. I want the water in the snow globe to be over his face. Do I just use a watered down version of the background? Yeah, you do. But here's the catch with that is I would leave that until the end. And the nice thing is if you put too much on, you can always go back in with a lot more water and just kind of wash it out. You can also remove it completely. So this is a great way to kind of experiment right now. So all the water that's surrounding his head, making up your, the fill of that snow globe, just take a bunch of water on your brush, coat his face with the water, and then pull in some of that pigment from around him. Then later, when you're done with that, I want you to take a little bit more concentrated pigment and go just around his head to give the appearance that his head creates shadow in the water. It'll give some dimensionality to it. I think that will help. Without seeing it, it's hard for me to say for sure. Well, I'm feeling like this guy is kind of somewhere between cloud and this very strange mushroom form. Not to be confused with mushroom cloud, of course. So given that I'm torn between those two forms, I might go with cloud first because I really enjoy painting clouds. This guy's got a really interesting... Oh, now that I've got this guy, I'm starting to think about this guy. Because I'm like looking at these two together and I'm like, wait a minute. There's something really cool about the void over here that maybe I could make happen over here. I'm not sure yet on that. I gotta think about that a little bit more. Yeah, if you want to send me a pic on that card you're working on, so that I can see, I might be able to make it a little bit more, your help, what I help you with might be a little bit more, applicable to what you're doing. Did another guy who had his head in the clouds the other day. He hasn't hit Instagram yet, but it's another example of the head in the clouds kind of guy. I don't know if I'm done with him yet. Just a thought. Of course, now that sort of defeats the purpose of that blend, right? Which is okay. If you're new here and you're hanging out watching, leave a follow if you want. We have a very cool show on Tuesday nights that we broadcast called The Large Glass, where we talk about a new artist or art-related theme. We're very active with our chat. Got a very cool show coming up this Tuesday. This guy becomes a little bit god-like, almost like he's coming down from the clouds. And of course, I can't help but think of a Monty Python skit, which makes me very upset. As if I could unhinge his jaw and he would just start, you know, talking about something obnoxious. And funny, of course. I don't know. I don't know if I'm feeling this one. It's all right. I'm glad my uncertainty is happening on a card that's somewhat broken, because that, you know, makes me feel all right. This guy is still kind of cool to me. I'm thinking about your snow globe that you mentioned, and I'm like, I wonder what happens if he has. Of course, that kind of articulates that whole space theme that I didn't want to start, you know, go near on this one. All right, gotta think more about him. Let's go back to this guy here. Let's see what we're gonna do. He's not bad. on a minute. Oh yeah, I'll say that guy looks like Robert E. Lee. Look at that. All right, so I'm looking at your cabinet card that you sent to me via text message. And I just want to point a couple of things out. So some things to consider is the base of the snow globe, right, sits across his neckline here, but it doesn't follow the contour of the shoulder. So imagine I'm physically in this space, right? I'm physically inside of this globe and the base of it sits on me. Rather than the base of it coming out here, it would likely be here. So it probably should follow the shoulder contour, and then remember, as it cuts across the front of me, it wouldn't be square, right? But it would likely roll down almost like a chest plate, right? Almost like a collar. Pretend I'm wearing a boat neck, right? God, I would never wear a boat neck. But anyway, it would run down across my shoulders like that. So give it the same curvature you would expect a necklace that was draped across my chest. That's the same contour. And then of course it wraps up and over the shoulder blade here, or the collarbone. And it would do the same thing in the back if you could see that. And I think that's gonna help to dimensionalize this a ton, right? Yeah, and the reason it's stiff is just because there's a geometry to that base, a rectilinear geometry that doesn't match the body it's sitting on. We gotta remember that the body has an organic kind of shape to it. And we wanna try and think about, if I draped a string across this area, how would it fall? That's your line. And I think that will help a lot. So give that a whirl and let's see how that goes. Oh, I should probably go back to the drawing. Not that one, this one. And let's go here. There we go. You're welcome. And then when you do that, I want to see what it looks like. I'll in turn show you a picture. Let me find it here. It's going to take me a second. Let's make some adjustments so you can actually see it. And then I'll tell you the story that goes with it. Let's put this on let's get this on the screen for you. Okay, so that's that camera, that's that camera. Just bear with me for a second. Where did that image go? I thought I handed it off here. No, it's still not going through. Let's go this way with it. There we go. Of course it's coming through as... You know, I can't stand that the iPhone is doing this new HEIC format. I know I can change it. I always forget to change it, but it's ridiculous. That HEIC format works with nothing but Apple. So I want to stick that in something else. It's like, all right, first I got to open it in preview. I've got to export it as a JPEG, and then I've got a photo that's usable. They added this ridiculous step, and for what? I'm assuming the compression ratio has something, you know, that they'll tout as being advantageous, but I don't really care. JPEGs were fine. All right, let's see here. Give me a second. All right, now we have it as a JPEG. All right, so I was out on my ride today, which was fun. I did about 20 miles. And I was coming down one hill to meet the group I ride with when I first started riding, and one of the fellow riders was there, and he was coming the other way, coming the wrong way. He's like, stop, 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 stop. And I slammed on the brakes, and I said, why? He's like, look behind me. And I saw this. Coming up the road, followed him, and we were like, oh God. So we turned around. Of course, we're in the wrong gear, so we could barely ride. And he walked into the woods, and we thought we were okay. And so we were just about to go, and he comes out almost closer to us and starts walking towards us again. This happened 3 separate times. So I think he just wanted to be friends. I wasn't necessarily interested in being friends. But yeah, big boy, girl. I'm not sure what this bear was, but this was a big, big bear. So for what it's worth, got to hang out with that guy this morning. Kind of fun. Kind of not fun. All right, back to my Cloud Man. Once I go in and I put a lot of this shadow in, I will go back in and redefine some of the whiter tops. I like to lay down a little bit of a thick line and then go back in and just juice it, you know. Give it a... soften it up a little bit. Establish a little bit of space between what's going on here. Yeah, I'm looking at your image right now. I think that's a great improvement. Okay, so I want you to think about one more thing. Let me see how I could try and explain this to you. I'm going to see if I can't increase the size of this. And I'm going to put this on camera. All right, so here's what I want you to do. Do you see this line right here? This line should run all the way down and around as if it sits flat on that shoulder. I think it's dropping in a little too early. This is a little too early. If it comes over here, I'm physically painting on my phone now. If it comes over to here and then comes around, right? You're gonna see it much more clearly. Or if you did not wanna do that, right? This line here that you have established should rise up and over the shoulder a little bit like that to make it look like it wraps over the shoulder, like it's sitting on it. Right now, it's so flatly attached, it doesn't feel dimensional. So I'd either rise up a little bump here as if it sits on, or I'd come down and around at a steeper or a less steep angle, if that makes sense. But this is looking great. That is looking absolutely great. I love it. I love it. So hopefully that will give you, gotcha, good, 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 good. Oh, I'm off the screen. Don't be off the screen. This guy has like a great storm. He's part of he's a fabulous thinker. I want to get back in there, obviously, and start to sort of build some of the billow, some of the forward-facing cloud, but I really want to establish some of that under shadow first. So it's going to be one of those things that doesn't look quite right until it does. Hopefully we'll have one of those icing on the cake moments where things all of a sudden are like, they just snap into place. Maybe it won't, maybe it will. We're not too worried though. Just kind of having a look at this right now and trying to think of where starting to feel that a little bit. I don't mind that this is a bit abstracted. I kind of like this interesting flurry. This is a weird one for me. I don't know what to think of this one yet. Very strange piece. Might be time to like put this one down for a little bit and start working on our other guy. I do love this idea of I've been doing this thing lately where I put this wild growth around people. Like I put this sort of thicket of material, like branches, weeds, overgrowth, as if they almost grew up and out of him. I watched a bit of the movie Midsommar last night. I had to put it down because I had a lot going on. But there's this scene where this girl, she's tripping on mushrooms and she looks down at her hand and the grass is growing right through her hand. And I thought, oh, there's Ben Hagenbush. He made it. A cloudy mind like me. That's what I was thinking about myself, actually. Like the depth of your clouds looks so good. You're always a good support, Ben. I love that. Thanks. It's good to see you, buddy. Yeah, so I was thinking about having this kind of trying to attempt that grassy growth, but right out of the jacket, right? As if they extend right up out of the clothes. That would involve sort of giving the illusion, faking this notion that they're busting through the fabric. So I would probably have to come back in and do something with that. But, you know, there's just like this idea, you know, that there could be this sort of branch, almost birch-like at first. And then I could just kind of, you know, sort of play with this idea that it's physically sticking out of him. And I love the way that stands up on the black like that. That's got a lot of, you know, I can take this places, right? But why stop at one? Ben, what are you working on today? You got some art going? Any commissions? Oh, great. Good to know. Good to know. Glad we're all kind of engaged in the creative practice this weekend. Ah, okay, cool. Oh, that's great. I love it when the commissions come in. I have a fairly exciting possible collaboration coming up myself. And unfortunately can't talk about it. Well, I can talk about it. I can give, but I can't give details. But it centers on a launch of an app that is going to be coming in October. And we're going to be trying to wrangle a bunch of artists that are going to be working live at this event for the app launch. So that's kind of exciting, and I'm really looking forward to digging into that a little bit. So Ben, when you say institutional video, what do you mean? Oh, instructional video. It would help if I could read. I think you'd be awesome at an instructional video. Given your technique, you're like, you know, I think the only thing you got to figure out with that's going to make the difference is how you know, show the actual process, right? I think that would be the, no, it's not your fault. I couldn't read it. I read it wrong. But how do you get that camera in there to actually physically show the process? Now, of course, these are kind of very boringly landing on the jacket surface. They're not really doing anything. They should be a little bit more varied in where they're poking out, and then I will eventually get in there and paint right over those. I'm going to try and match the color of the jacket. It looks a little moleskin-y. It looks a little velvety. It's a nice jacket. Not quite. We're getting there. We're getting a good match going here. Yeah, Ben, I think that's a great idea. If I could offer you some advice on that video, if that's going to live on YouTube or live somewhere, one thing I've learned through remote teaching is that digestibility, meaning a person's ability to spend time with video processes, is very short. So if you could break it into, say, 30 steps, 22 steps that are all 7 minutes apiece, so that there's a 7-minute video for each sort of segmented piece, then somebody can kind of go at their own pace. Otherwise, they've got to keep revisiting the same video, find the timestamp where they left off at like 1 hour and 47 minutes, and come back to it. And that makes the process the watching of the video becomes labor intensive. So I would break it into parts. You probably already knew to do that. I mean, you've done this before. This isn't your first rodeo. I think I really want to do this in pencil. I really don't feel like the straight up gouache brush combo here is. Well, we'll see. We'll see. It's going to take a little bit of a back and forth. I often find that with something like this, I'm drawing out these white branches. I'm going to come back in with the Vanta Black and work the edges of those to give them a little bit more of a crispness. So, you know, for me, this kind of detailed process takes time. Ben, I was showing earlier before you came online the, oh, I see. A DVD downloaded type of thing. Oh, so maybe like a paid content sort of thing. You should look at, you should look at Patreon. What's great about Patreon is if you can get people to support you on a monthly basis through Patreon, you can upload videos to Vimeo and then let Patreon integrate them, and then they become unlockable only by people who are supporting you. So that means nobody has access to those videos but your supporters. And that could be a way to really generate a fan base, as well as, get properly paid for the lessons that you're teaching. That's one of the things that I'm doing here. But I was showing earlier, I had gone out for a bike ride and I was showing your aunt what I encountered along the way. This big bad girl was on the road. She was following us. So, it's kind of a beast. We saw two today. This one, and then halfway through, about 12 miles in, we saw another one. So they're out in force right now. And they're both a little terrifying, but a treat. It's kind of a treat to see them. So anyway, for what it's worth, let's go back to our desktop here. You know, I like that idea of pretending these are busting up through that jacket lapel, but it's just, no, I'm not feeling it. I'm not feeling like these are doing it justice. All right, I've got another idea. I have another idea. We're changing this whole thing. So this is where it gets crazy, right? This is where I kind of like this part of this. It's when you say to yourself, I had an idea, I was going a particular way, I don't like that idea anymore, let's change. Fine, let's change. Let's just dig in here and just get this out of here. Uh-oh, here comes Terry with hers. I'm dying to see this. Oh, get the hell out of here. Can I show that? Is that collage?
Yeah, it's all collage.
Let me see that. Get out of town. Oh, man. Hold on a minute. Please hold. Please hold. So Terry took the same exact cabinet card image that I'm working with. This guy, she made a copy of it and blew it up nice and big. And she's working on this fantastic collage in her sketchbook. Look at that. Here's the dude. See, I told you guys hers would be better than mine. I love it. I love it. This is awesome. I love that like rope braid snake thing coming out of the face. And also like the light bulbs in the head. It's kind of like mine with the clouds. Yours has got ideas generating. That's so weird. Those braids are gross. I kind of like that though. Those braids are gross. It's like, yeah, Ben's saying nice. Ben likes it. All right, sweet. Nice work. Yeah. So what I'm gonna do with this dude is we're gonna get, oh yeah, I guess I gotta go back to my camera here, huh? Rather than have them busting out of his jacket, we're gonna make this a wearable piece. Ma, this is what I was talking about before, about getting just above that shoulder line, following that contour down, right? There we go. Oh yeah, that's looking good. Mom just sent me hers as a text and I'm checking it out. Yeah, I think you definitely fixed it. I think you did a good job of working out that that issue over the shoulder. I think that works well. All right, so now here's the last thing I'm gonna tell you about this. I'm gonna zoom in really close because I want you to see something. This is where your shoulder of the support system for the globe meets the globe, right? All right, now, illusionistically, back here, right? This support system, hold on, we gotta get this to focus. This support system, the dark blue, would technically roll around the back of his neck because it goes all the way around. So you wanna hint at continuing that line behind the neck there. Oh, not that. And behind the neck right there. And that's gonna give you this appearance that this thing fully surrounds the head. Okay, it's gonna give it a less frontal appearance and make it look like it's really physically on him. Yeah, this is looking good. I like this a lot. You're making it happen. Making it happen. Oh, thanks, Ben. It's doesn't always work out as well as I want it to, obviously. And I will actually go back in and shade them more. Yeah, sometimes it helps to just look really closely, right? And dig in a little bit deeper. But that's why we do this, right? Now, of course, once I get this worn apparatus on his shoulders and neck completed, not completed, but just a little bit more established, I'm gonna drag these branches down into a location. Now, what's gonna be cool about this is rather than having the branches sticking up out of his jacket, which, you know, illusionistically just looks bad, I have a feeling it would be a little bit more interesting to make this plate on his neck a metallic object that has holes in it that allows these branches to come through. So what we'll do is we'll start by putting down a metallic base, which I think could be kind of cool, right? And this will be like a really weird ornamental kind of thing that he wears, which I'm kind of excited for. I think this is actually, I love the turn this is taking. You know, this guy, doing the cloud head guy, really kind of gave me some insight. You know, maybe the clouds built up my idea base. I'm shaking up some acrylic right now, trying to get this metallic acrylic while this dries. This is almost dry. Right, let's get some of this on there. Nice stuff. Really got a good pigment in it. The only catch is this gouache was recently applied. It's still got a little bit of wetness to it. So I'm actually going to work over here in this dry area right now. And I don't want to overstroke this because what I'll do is I'll activate that white pigment underneath, and I don't want to do that. I want to get a layer of this down. You can already see where I'm starting to like pull things off. That's okay. That's not the end of the world. Because as soon as a layer of this acrylic dries up, it's going to entrap all that garbage in it. And then I can just second coat it and it's going to be fine. You know, when you're sort of free thinking your process, when you're stream of consciousness working on a work like this, part of the issue you're going to run into is how some of the materials either fight one another or play nice with one another. And that's okay, right? Sometimes you're going to discover some stuff that's really going to open a door. And this is just, I'm not liking this, but I'm gonna tolerate it, right? Oh my God, oh, that's a pocket square. I thought I smeared it. I'm like, what is that? Pocket square. Not loving this. Now, the way I see it blending together looks amazing. It's okay. It's okay. You know, but then again, Ben, that's something to consider, right? It's like, oh, did I learn something here? Did I find a new combination of materials where I'm mixing gouache into an acrylic metallic base? Would that give me something? Maybe. I don't love it. I don't love it, but it's okay. It's too... I don't know. It seems... Yeah, it's not formed enough yet. All right, he needs to dry, like big time. This is a beautiful back on it. Look at the back of this card. The only ground floor gallery in the city. What city? All pictures made by the Lightning process. Satisfaction guaranteed. Negatives preserved for future orders. Copying of all kinds. Indianapolis. If you're from Indianapolis, maybe you want a piece of Indianapolis history. This man right here probably lived there. There's no hint on the back of who he was. But we'll see how that goes. All right, let's bounce back. This is still pretty tacky. I don't want to mess with it just yet. So we'll take this time to talk about the cabinet card workshop that we're going to have. And I'm going to pop a link to that into our chat. So what I'm going to be doing is I'm going to be hosting a cabinet card workshop. And in that, hopefully, you will have the capacity to go and get a cabinet card for yourself. They're easy to get. You can get them on eBay. You can get them at estate sales, antique shops. They're between $1 and $4 a piece. And frankly, as a surface to work on, I think they're pretty awesome. I think that, you know, something to respond to is definitely worth the extra money. Now, you get yourself one of those and you can look at the supply list, the suggested supply list I have online. And then we're going to all meet in a private Zoom session that is available through this Lucra link that I just put up in the chat. It's only $10. You can come hang out. And when you join up, there are 2 links on that Lucra page that you've got to click. One of them is just the supply list. You want to look at that and see what you need to actually do the show. 2 is a contact form that I need you to fill out, because what I'm going to send you is I'm going to send you a Discord invite. And on a Discord invite, you're going to get to join our whole group live, so that when I do the broadcast, you will be live with me either in a video capacity or audio, and I'll be able to give you feedback on your work. So come along for that for sure. Sign up for it. It's I think it's going to be a really good time. It's on the 27th of June at 7 p.m. That's a Sunday evening, 7 o'clock. It's an hour and a half long. And, you know, give it a shot. It's fun to work with this stuff. And if you're intimidated by like materials or artistic process, I've got almost 2 decades of teaching experience. Actually, more than 2 decades now. God, I'm old. 2 decades of teaching experience in the fine arts. I can help you with this. I can kind of guide your hand. So, you know, come along for that one. Also, I'm working on, for July, we've got a sketchbook workshop coming up that's going to talk about the sketchbook process and how that can be integrated into your own creative practice in a really successful way. I'm going to talk about different materials, types of sketchbooks, how to develop your own daily practice, and how to kind of like deal with the pages of a sketchbook, which is a funny thing to say, but it's going to be really enlightening. Okay, so that again, that one's only $5 actually. So for $5, you get to come, sit down, look at a variety of materials, and I talk with you through the chat and through the lecture on how to make sketchbooks a better part of your own creative thinking. So definitely try out the Cabinet Card Workshop if you can. I'd love to have you along on that. Is this guy dry yet? Is he dry yet? He feels pretty dry. I'm gonna hit him with another coat now. And I think this one's gonna lay down a little bit better. It's gonna give you an idea of that metallic sort of, the metallic nature of this thing. All right, let's see. this reacts. I thought I had composed a really nice playlist of songs that were, you know, appropriate for Sunday morning studio practice. Instead, I've got this absolutely maniacal synthesizer blowing my head off. Now, one thing about this particular paint is it's really made to stick to a plastic surface. This is a modeling paint, so I'm not using it in its proper capacity. And what's happening is it's hitting this surface and it's saying, whoa, 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 what are we doing here? So it is not laying down exactly how we want it to. So we say to ourselves, all right, yeah, I could put 7 coats on this, smooth it all out, and make it absolutely gorgeous. Or I could roll with the flaws. Let's see what I could do with that. Not the most opaque paint in the world. You know, you start using enough gouache and all of a sudden you get to something that's got a thinness to it and you're like, what is this? I don't like this. Oh, Ben, thanks, dude. That's awesome. I appreciate that. There's a bunch that did not make it into that photo. I have 10 cabinet cards in a show in a small museum in Lebanon Township, New Jersey, which I'm excited about. That's kind of cool. They're having a little show that centers on, you know, the pandemic. And this, obviously, a lot of this art that I made was a response to that. And so those are there. I've sold a bunch of these and they've wound up, many of them, I mean, all of them have been recorded. Obviously, I've kept an archive of what I've sold off. But I really need to do a better job of getting that organized. All right, so the neckline is starting to be like this area here is just being a problem. That's all right, we'll wrangle it in a submission soon. In the meantime, once that dries, we're there. I think that's really gonna be interesting. Look at the difference between the two cameras. On this one on your right, it just looks so juicy and metallic. Trying to blend this out a little bit, get some of the brush marks out of it. I think the third coat on there will be a charm. We're going to be wrapping up here in about 15 minutes. Just wait for that next coat to go down. And then I'm going to pull these trees down into this space. Right. One thing that would be really cool is to lay some of that Vanta Black on this surface. I bet I could do that now. That Vanta Black loves to play nice with other materials. So if I put a couple of those holes in here, we could just see how that goes. You know, like I could see this branch here kind of coming into play right in the middle. I want the hole to feel as if it comes around the contour of the plate. Yeah, it sits on there great. Got a few more here. Now the holes themselves, of course, will have a little rim a little highlight, a little embellishment, right? But right now we're just starting off with the very raw, the very basic. Oh, this could be kind of fun. Of course, when you're doing something like this also and you're trying to express a certain level of dimensionality, let's wrap one up over the edge, right? Because we would presume that this goes all the way around the back. So let's not forget that, right? So that's going to give it that idea that they keep going. Let's not make them all the same size. And my father, who's a metal spinner, if I said to him, all right, Dad, let's make this object. I want a collar. I want a copper collar full of holes that I can put a base in and make a wearable object like this. Because I feel like a lot of these cabinet cards that I've made could become physical sculptures that I could wear from a performative standpoint. I'm really interested in this idea that these are sketches for something greater. Of course, some of the other ones that are more sphere-like, like the globes, like the snow globe you're working on, Mom. Oh, you sent me one last picture. Let me see what I got here. Oh yeah, here we go. Yep. Yeah, that's what I'm talking about. That is what I'm talking about. Agreed. That looks good. That looks good. I think you're definitely on the right track. So, I mean, if I go back to your original picture that you sent me, you know, from like photo 1, where you say a long way to go, all the way up to where you landed, that's a great improvement. Now, of course, getting that to be a little bit more solid, right, is going to require, you know, iteration, right? Practice. Let's keep it going, you know, because now you got to think about that connection point of the glass, right? That glass hits that base. You know, I'm looking at this image, you kind of see it here. The glass hits that base in a very sort of, there's a moment where the glass probably, let's pretend, that it flares out a little bit. There's a connection point there. So there's a little reflectivity, which is why you were wise enough to put that little color boost in there, that little lightening, a little saturation of the blue, you know, gets popped. So there's this space where those two things touch. Well, in theory, that would travel around the back as well, but more minimally. You would not want to represent that as thick as you did on the front, but just a hairline of that light blue and a hairline of that light blue. Now all of a sudden you've got a little bit more of a layered, detailed representation going on there, which, you know, it's gonna give it that much more punch, which is kind of a cool thing. Yes, for sure. Always, always. That's what we do. That's why we're here. And by we, I'm not referring to myself in the multiple. I mean we as in you guys and me. It's one of the reasons I love a classroom environment so much, is because in a classroom environment, we have the capability of looking at each other's work and crossing the feedback lines all around, right? So when you take that class and we're all in Discord together, we're actually able to get more from it than what I'm just willing to give you. You're able to see other people's reactions to, you know, a situation like this, which is very valuable. This guy is definitely going to be something I don't have enough time to finish by the time we're done with the show today. But he is definitely going to, I'm going to come back to him tonight, finish this guy up. I really want to get a bump in detail. Like I'm gonna take that bronze paint, right? When I go back in, let me just do one right now so you can see, because I think this is gonna make the difference when we're trying to figure out how these branches come up out of these holes, right? But there's this idea, like let's say I know this branch here is gonna drop into this hole. Fine. I'm gonna put a rim around this hole, but only on the front side. Now all that does, this is not really adding a whole lot to the image that you can see in the camera, and that's okay. But what it does do is it creates a little brush stroke around that. Let's see if I can get that to be seen. It creates a little brush stroke around that hole. Is it there? That's hard to see. Anyway, there's a brush stroke around that hole that I'm gonna be able to highlight later, right? I'm also gonna be able to take that tree and drop that thing right down into that space. So this thing's gonna be like, and then I'm gonna build upon that, right? There's gonna be some shadow that juts up out of that hole as if the thing drops into the space. And I'm gonna do that with all of these. And all of a sudden now he's got this like crazy weird wearable piece that, I don't know where this came from, right? It might have come from, you know, some of the things I was thinking about. This cloud is a wearable piece that this guy has. So anyway, if you're watching and you haven't given a follow yet, we draw on Sundays together. I give feedback on your work. Right now I'm working on 2 pieces that I feel are really weirdly tentative. I don't love them. I feel like, you know, they've got a long way to go before I hit any level of success with them. So for what it's worth, it's got some distance yet. But I will come back to it. I'll keep plugging away on. I'm gonna get in there with a little pencil, a little bit of detail, and you know, just try and figure out the way these holes sort of work around this thing. And eventually I hope to have this thicket coming out of this perforated copper collar piece around this guy, which frankly I'd really like to wear one of my own. And then if this guy's not bad, although he had a damaged surface on him to begin with, so you know that's kind of a bummer that he's got that crack in him, but that's okay. That's okay, we can live with that. So give a follow, hang out with us on Sunday mornings at 10 o'clock. We'll do some drawing. And if you want, I can, you know, look at your work as well. Ben, that's exactly right. I appreciate that. You'll get it, just keep building on it. And I intend to. I intend to build this thing up a lot. Worst case scenario, I get in there, I get a piece of sandpaper, I sand that sucker down, and I just start building on it again, because that's what it's about. It's a process. We iterate. One thing doesn't work, we move on to the next thing. We learn from the first one, we keep going. It is 11:53 and it is time for me to go. I've got a few things I've got to get done today, but I appreciate all of you watching and hanging out with me. It was really great to get you in the chat, hang out. Mom, nice seeing your work. I think you did a great job on that piece today. It was awesome. But we will see you on Tuesday, and have a good weekend. Oh, there's Amanda Toolin. Hi, Amanda, thanks. I appreciate that. It's nice to see you. I'm glad you're here. Just saw that I was on Love the Clouds. Thank you. Thank you. We've been talking about the Cabinet Card Workshop. Oh, and Nurses for Artists here too. Cool. Cool. Well, good. Now the crowd chimes in. I'm about to leave, and you all chime in. That's okay. That's okay. So let's get together again next Sunday for another cabinet card session, and I will see you hopefully on Tuesday night. Oh, wait a minute. Now I'm not even on the right camera here. Here we go. All right. I'll see you all on Tuesday. Thanks again for hanging out. Have a great Sunday. We'll chat soon. Bye-bye.